underneath my house, I need another house. So I'm building a bunker.
Okay, well, welcome, Ron, to Nexus's very first podcast. And the reason why we're doing a podcast with you and haven't done one before is we've never met someone as interesting as yourself. Yesterday, I was talking to you just to line you up for the program. And I thought, okay, so this guy's a bit of a fantasist. He says he designed Zuckerberg's bunker. Let's find out. And it turns out that you're actually building bunkers for Tristan Tate in Romania. And to prove it, you sent me some rather interesting videos. Let's going to have a quick look at those, and then we're going to come back to you.
I had some Mylar stuff. This lasted a couple of years.
Yeah.
This is when I was just trying and sample stuff, but you told me to buy in the can. So this is 20 years.
That's
Okay, you have to tell me, how did the Tates get in touch with you?
I believe they just follow me on YouTube, and they found me like everybody else in the world does, is they go and find me on my social media.
So what, they call you up and they say, we want a bunker?
It's as simple as that. It's pretty much the same with everybody in the world.
And
They'll send me an email or they'll just call me and say, yeah, we want a bunker.
And did you believe it was them, or did you think it was a spoof?
I didn't know who they were.
Oh.
I didn't even know his last name. I just knew his name was Tristan. He was in Romania. It wasn't until I landed at the airport, he picked me up in this beautiful blue Rolls Royce, and I saw that he was a young guy. And then we went to his house, and I saw those supercars there. And I looked at him, I go, what the hell do you do? You know?
And what did they tell you?
Well, he told me that they had a business that they had sold, and that they had invested well into Bitcoin and some other things, and it had done a very good return for them. So they've been quite blessed, and that's how they made all their money.
And at that point, had they been arrested?
No. This was about a year before they were arrested. And at the time, I didn't know a single thing about either one. So I went to lunch with Tristan because I was there for 1 or 2 nights. And then his brother Andrew showed up at lunch, and I didn't know anything about his brother. He just sits down and starts eating. And honestly, I didn't know anything about them till after I left. And then I started looking some stuff up, and I was like, oh, those guys are somebody. But, you know, just because you're somebody, and I get a lot of somebodies call me, they just don't call and say, oh, by the way, I'm very famous and very rich.
They don't.
No, the richest people are the most humble.
I got you. So you turn up and you're having dinner. Is it at their house or is it in a restaurant?
No, we're at a restaurant.
Right,
you know, he first picked me up.
Yeah.
He took me to a hotel, the Radisson Blue. And then the next morning, he picked me up in a Ferrari.
Yeah.
And gave me a ride around Bucharest.
Very nice.
And then we went to his house. We looked at the property.
Yeah.
And he gave me a ride back to the hotel. Then he came back and picked me up that night for dinner.
So he's a perfect gentleman.
He is a perfect gentleman.
Well, you know, they've since been arrested. Then they were held without charge. And then finally they were charged with, you know, human trafficking or sex trafficking, something along those lines, and various other things. But you're going to still build that bunker?
Yes, sir, I am. It was delayed for about a year, and he actually gave me the green light to go ahead and proceed to finish it up.
Yeah.
Because we had already started it, and it was being built at our factory in Poland. So we put a hold on it. And then he basically just maybe 2 weeks ago, he told me, just let's go ahead and do it, because they were contemplating whether they would stay in Romania or not, based on the way they were treated. But I guess things are getting back to normal. And he says, yeah, we're going to go ahead and just do it and stay here.
Okay. And how did you find them? Did you find them sort of ordinary, humble characters? Are they different as people, different as characters?
Well, keep in mind, I'm like, you know, it's like when a person goes to the doctor, they're usually pretty humble because they're there to see their doctor.
Right.
And there's a few people that even a celebrity will basically show respect for. And it's to the preacher, it's to the doctor, it might be towards their lawyer or somebody. So they've been very humble with me. But, you know, they are what they are. And I have seen them be nothing but perfect gentlemen and polite to me. And I have nothing bad to say.
And the interesting thing is, Ron, you seem to be free to talk about this. Did you sign a non-disclosure agreement?
No, I did not sign a non-disclosure with them. I do have one with Zuckerberg. So I'm not at liberty to talk too much about what he has
All
going
right, well,
on.
let's get into the details then. So the Tate brothers live in Romania, and they call you up. They say, we want a bunker underneath our house. And how far have you got with that? Did they tell you why they wanted one?
He's like most of my customers. It's part fantasy and it's part look, when you have all the money in the world and you've got enough money that you're buying supercars and Ferraris and Lamborghinis and you're just parking, you're running out of things to buy. So a lot of my customers, I think buying a luxury bomb shelter is just the next cool item on their list. Of course, they hope they never need it, but they think it's cool to have it. So if you can afford it, why not? You've got more money than God at times.
So he's not anticipating, Tristan Tate is not anticipating a particular world event. He's just saying, I want it just in case.
I haven't really asked him all the details. Now, when I was there, I was the first person to film them when they got out of jail. I just happened to be in Europe and I popped into Romania and I went by his house and all the cars were gone. And the only car that was left there was that red Russian car. And he actually showed me his food collection. He was asking me about what kind of foods to get. So he showed me what he had. So Tristan does have somewhat of a prepper mentality because he's buying the food, he's getting the supplies, he's getting the bunker. So, he obviously is a prepper.
Okay, let's talk about the bunker itself then. Is it your biggest one? The Fat Boy?
The Fat Boy is too big to be delivered to his job site because the power lines, like you've been to his house before, you know what I'm talking about. When you drive up the road, the power lines are so low, we can't deliver a bunker that big to the property. So what we're going to do is make some smaller pieces, bring them there and assemble them all on site. Mm-hmm. But when he's done, he'll have much bigger than a Fat Boy.
Well, you sent over some video of his backyard. Let's have a quick look at that. And he's got something like a couple of acres. So the plan is to dig underneath and just install those modules and put them all together and then link them up to the main house?
They're going to link up somewhere. Yes, there's going to be a secret passage that comes up into the property. I should not say where it's going to come up exactly, but there will be a secret passage to a secret tunnel that leads to probably a not so secret bunker, because normally I would never in a million years talk about one of my clients, but he lit it out first.
Yes.
And I said, do you mind if I talk about it? And he's like, I don't care.
I have spent $3.9 million.
All right, let me at least show him what it is.
You could show him what it is. Because I got my house, and my house has got, 12 bedrooms? Underneath my house, I need another house. So I'm building a bunker, a fallout bunker with 10 bedrooms, stripper pole, living room, all the important things you need to survive the apocalypse. That is what I have ordered. It is now under construction.
So, he did a video and says, we're building a $3.9 million bunker.
Very good point.
Why would you tell anybody? Because nobody tells anybody when they have a bunker.
That's a really good point. Like, if people know you have a bunker, then they know you've got food and supplies and so on, but they're confident enough that they can defend themselves, that they can just say it outright.
I guess he feels he's going to have enough protection around that he'll feel safe.
So $3.9 million, and apparently, according to our chat yesterday, he gets 70 square meters of living space. It's made of steel. It's quite luxurious inside. You're burying it 2 meters underground. And
now his bunker's 200 square meters. The Fat Boy is a single bunker that's 70 square meters. He's getting 6 bunkers that are each 40 square meters. So he's getting 240 square meters or 2,400 square feet of bunker, which is, in the world of bunkers, it's large.
Okay. And what can it protect him from?
Pretty much anything. The first thing it will protect him from is nuclear fallout. The second thing it will protect him from is any kind of chemical gases, chemical warfare. But the third thing is probably one of the most important ones. It will protect him. His bunker is like a big biosphere. If you go inside that bunker and there was an airborne pandemic that is wiping out the world and everyone's dying because they're breathing it in and it has 100% fatality rate, a bunker like what I make, not just his, but all the bunkers I make, will protect you from such an event.
Yeah, but for how long, Ron?
As long as he's got food, water, and supplies. Now, the biological will eventually die off unless it's in spores, and each time you crack a spore, it releases again. But if it's airborne like smoke, it will eventually just die out.
So your air filters, you have one HEPA filter or two HEPA filters?
There's two HEPA filters. There's a pre-filter for breathing peacetime air, and then if we go into wartime, you would actually hook up a canister that has carbon and a second larger HEPA filter in it. So you would have double filtration.
Okay. Entering into Tristan's mind now, if we can, imagine there is some kind of attack and he can't get out of the main entrance or exit rather that he went into. Is there an escape hatch of some kind that comes out somewhere else?
Absolutely.
Okay, I doubt you can tell us where that is, and there's no need to do that.
They all have escape tunnels.
Right.
They all have one way in, and they always have a clandestine second way to get out of the bunker.
And isn't that because in some cases there may be a landslide, there may be a bus parked over it or whatever it might be. It just may not be accessible. That's the idea.
Well, actually, if something was to fall on the hatch, that's what most people think.
Right.
But the way I think, you see, if people think different around the world, Americans think that if we're ever attacked or there's an EMP in America, we're not worried about being invaded by Russians or Chinese or Iranians or North Koreans or anybody like that. We're worried about other Americans.
Yeah.
There's so many guns in America. We are worried about hoodlums and thugs. So really, the escape tunnel is a flanking maneuver that if someone's trying to lock you in or to kill you in your bunker and lock you in and block off your air pipes or anything like that, that you have a way to flank them and defend your bunker or escape.
Other Americans and the federal government, perhaps? Well, you laugh it off, no. But I mean, just an aside, but are Americans concerned? I mean, that's why you have a Second Amendment, isn't it? To protect you against a tyrannical federal government?
Well, the problem in our country right now is our government. That is, the current government is the big problem in America. America is so divided right now that if we're not in a revolution or a civil war within a decade, I would be absolutely shocked. I wouldn't be even surprised. If Donald Trump loses the election in November, there will probably kick off the Republicans will consider that Joe Biden had the election stolen because he's so unpopular. Yeah. It's very hard to find anybody that's going to vote for Joe Biden. Yet they say the race is only like 6 or 7 points behind. But most Republicans, 90% of the Republicans, feel that the 2020 election was stolen, that there was some wrongdoing going in there. Okay, they call them, the Democrats call them election deniers. But if you lived in America, you're like, how could anybody vote for this guy? So let's say he did win it. Okay. There's no way he should win the next one. And if the Democrats take the election, people are really worried that it will kick off a civil war, which is ironic because the movie Civil War starts this Friday. Oh,
but there's so many questions for you, Ron. I could go off at many different angles and tangents, and we'll get to those, yeah, because... But let's just stay with the government for a minute. People will be amazed to find out that even the IRS, the Inland Revenue Service, is essentially militarized. They have plenty of weapons. And if they want to come knocking on your door, they can come very, very heavily armed. Is that correct?
Usually the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, is not armed, but I think they're starting to carry weapons. They just started doing that a few years ago. Okay. But I have not heard too many cases of the IRS kicking in the doors with guns. Not yet, anyway.
Okay. Right, then, let's get back to that point where you said, you anticipate a civil war if this happens and that happens. It brings me to a point that one of your critics has made, not just a critic of you, but a critic of lots of people who prepare bunkers, which is that you thrive and benefit from and profit from sort of doom-mongering and fear-mongering. Are you guilty of that?
Am I guilty of fear-mongering?
Are you guilty of making Americans more afraid than they need to be in order to sell more bunkers?
Now, I personally am not guilty of fear mongering. I provide a service and a product for people who desire it. They can't build it themselves. I didn't start making bunkers to make money. I started making bunkers because I wanted one, and then the one I made became so popular, everybody asked me to make them one, and my hobby turned into a business. And you don't know all my history, but if you knew my history, you would absolutely never consider me personally a fearmonger for what I've gone through in my life to do this for people. Many times I do bunkers and don't make a red penny off of.
Yeah.
I'm just doing it to help other like-minded Americans. I'm very patriotic.
It's very true. I don't know your history, and I'm pretty sure it's very interesting and packed with a lot of adventure. I want to pick up on something you said about things you've been through. You told me yesterday, and we didn't have a chance to explore it, that your premises have been burned down, and you had possibly, I think it was a member of staff killed. And I would like to ask, why would someone who builds bunkers for a living have to endure that kind of threat? What's going on?
Well, when you are in America, should I go into this? Atlas is at war with a particular competitor, and a lot of people think that the particular competitor, which I've exposed through my videos as being very unprofessional. I don't want to use words that will get me in trouble, but people have called him a con man, a criminal, and very many things. Matter of fact, some people have even lost their lives in his bunkers. And I have been anything but a fearmonger. I've been the honest person in America to expose bad people that are taking advantage of people. Just for the record, I've never paid myself a red cent to build bunkers. I am like a Catholic priest in a church. I am there. The church takes care of me, but the church doesn't pay me. Just so I cannot be called a fearmonger. I do not profit personally from this. This is my mission in life, my mission for God to do what I'm doing. I believe in it that much. But yeah, as far as my editor, I have a social media called Atlas Survival Shelters with over 1 million followers on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And my editor who makes the videos, he left the office and somebody pulled up to him and shot him in the head sitting in his car. And then I've had my office building burned down 2 times with Molotov cocktail. They caught it on the camera the first time, and the second time they set a few fires and even left a 5-gallon can of paint thinner to explode, but the fire snuffed itself out. But I've lost all my records 2 times in 2 years.
So you put this down to a corporate war rather than being targeted by...
I don't want to get in trouble, but I'll put it this way. The person that most people suspect is one of the people that I have been covering in my YouTube videos about making very inappropriate and not very well-made bunkers.
Okay, well, this took an unexpected turn. Maybe we should just say that we're not casting aspersions on anyone in particular, because I've never heard of this story before. But has the police?
No, it's very surreal.
Oh,
trust me, because I pulled
for me too.
I got called and said the building was on fire both times, and I almost beat the fire trucks down here. I got down here so fast, I ran every red light coming down here. So I saw both fires, and I was able to film both fires.
Yeah.
And I actually put both fires out on my YouTube, but I took them down because I didn't want people. It's not helping business. But you know what? I'm going to stand up for the people. I'm going to stand up for what's right. I'm a good person. I'm a Christian person. I do what I do for dignity, for morals, and integrity. And I'm not going to change how I am. Because someone keeps burning down my building.
Did it have anything? Did it have anything to do with you being a conservative?
I don't believe so. I believe this is all. I believe this is all because of my social media and me exposing bad people.
Okay, and just finally, we should probably get the official kind of account of things. Are the police looking into all this?
Oh yeah, the federal agencies, the local police, the fire department, everybody. Yeah.
Okay, so the investigation's ongoing. They haven't come to any conclusions?
No.
Let me ask you about, now, I was going to say your most famous client, Zuckerberg, but apparently I don't know if I'm allowed to say. I don't think people could guess, but apparently you've just made a bunker for someone even more famous, but you're not allowed to talk about that one.
Well, yeah. It will come out. It will come out who they are in about 2 months.
Right.
Because they're doing something with it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the only people that have exposed it, I did something with is Kardashians, Tate brothers. Zuckerberg didn't come out with it. As a matter of fact, it was 3 years ago, and I'm not allowed to talk about it because I signed an NDA. But I can just confirm that there was some contact made. He probably did something, and it's not what the media says. I can confirm that he doesn't have a $50 million bunker. I can confirm that he's not done anything different than any of the other wealthy people are doing.
Well, I mean, the news reports say that he has the bunker on an island of Hawaii, and it's 5,000 square feet. It's $100 million. It has its own energy and food supplies and so on. It's a doomsday bunker, et cetera, et cetera. But you're saying it's not nearly as glamorous as that?
No. I'm not allowed to say too much about it, but it's not much different than the Tate brothers. I'll put it that way.
Understood. Well, that's a real shame because the way it's being reported, you expect swimming pools and jacuzzis and banqueting rooms and so on, but it's none of that. It's just about that's the thing that people don't understand. The bunkers that keep you safe and are most frequently used, even by rich people, then they're the kinds of bunkers that you build. Is that right? And they're not the ones with an entire underground village.
Just because people are rich doesn't mean they're stupid. Quite the opposite. The richest people are the most humble people in the world. They don't talk about their money. They're not braggadocious. And the ones that would be braggadocious, I typically don't work for. But most of my customers, I will say this, 99.9% of my customers are torn from the same piece of cloth. They're usually conservative, Christian, gun owners in America. Democrats, for some reason, unless you're a billionaire Democrat, don't buy bunkers. So ironically, every bunker I've made for a Democrat was a billionaire Democrat, and there's only been a few of those. Okay,
any you can
the
talk,
rest of them
any,
are just,
any you can talk about?
Well, there's only 3 famous names I can drop, and that's Tate brothers, the Kardashians, and the Kardashians because I was on they had me on their TV show, and they were in the bunker, Kim and Khloe, and so we shot the episode of the bunker, so it's obvious. I'm not letting anybody.
Fair enough. Okay.
I am not going to reveal my clients, other than I'll put it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody in my company even knows who my clients are. Matter of fact, when we had the fire, we lost a lot of their names. We had to find them by my phone messages, or they had to reach out to me and contact me because we don't electronically file their names in our computer.
Yeah.
They're literally on a piece of paper on the board, and all we have is their first name.
Let me ask you this.
I don't want anybody to know who my customers are, their phone number, or where they live.
I think that's pretty sensible for someone who's building security bunkers. I think it's fair enough. In terms of the main reasons across all your clients, is it simply that they've got too much money and they've run out of things to spend on, or as some would say, or do any of them know something that we don't know? Something bad?
They're not spending. Most of them are not spending it just to have fun. They believe that in their lifetime, in the near future, or in their children's future, that there's a possibility that there could be World War III, and they want to do everything they can for their children and for their family. And unless they can jump on a spaceship and go to another planet, this is pretty much the only thing you can do. And you got to consider the facts that if the president, which is probably the most powerful person in the world, the president of the United States, if he is threatened, they do the same thing for him. They take him down into the doomsday bunker.
Fair enough.
If it's good enough for the president, it's good enough for you.
Yeah.
And me.
Well, some people say that what's the point of having a bunker when you come back up and everybody's dead, society is finished, and it's just survival of the fittest. So you might have a few tough kind of survivalist types around. And what is the point of surviving?
Because the will to live is greater than the will to die. I'm sure there might be some people that say, just let me die. But look, think about it. When a ship is sinking, everybody's trying to jump into a lifeboat. Nobody wants to go down with the ship. A few people did on the Titanic. They did it gloriously and they did it like gentlemen. But for the most part, people are going to want to survive. That's why all you got to do is watch the episode of Hitchcock. What was it? What was the TV series? But anyway, so a guy builds a bunker,
yes,
and all the neighbors are making fun of him, and then it comes on the news that missiles are coming in from Russia. So all the neighbors are beating on his door, trying to get into that bunker. So this is one of the reasons why people try to keep their bunkers more secret than their Bitcoin account. They don't want their neighbors coming in there.
Just for a practical consideration, the air filters will keep going for, well, as long as, they last, which I think is a very, very long time. But the food and the water, if that runs out, do you have any provisions whatsoever for recycling the water and also for growing food inside any of these shelters?
If you have a large enough bunker, you can grow food in size, but most of the bunkers I build are not large enough to sustain growing food underground. Some of the bunkers are, but those are those $20, $30 million bunkers that got 10,000 square feet. But in most cases, people are buying this 30-year food. It lasts 25 to 30 years. And all you got to do is add hot water. So let's say the end of the world comes, okay, and it's a nuclear war. So let me just set the facts straight, that nuclear fallout decays at the rate of 90% per day. Everything you've seen on TV about the end of the world and everyone turning into glowing and their noses falling off and stuff, this really is not true. That's Hollywood. Now, that might happen if you're around a nuclear meltdown, okay? But nuclear fallout decays at the rate of 90% per day. So you can leave your bunker probably within 3 to 4 days because the nuclear fallout has decayed so fast you can come out and the levels are so low that you can survive. But if you stayed in your bunker for an entire week and you come out, you would be perfectly fine. In Europe, in Switzerland, in Finland, there's bunkers for every person in the population there. Even those bunkers are only equipped with 2 weeks of food. So, they know the facts. Hollywood has done a discredit to the population by making movies and making it look like it's the end of the world, because it won't be the end of the world. It will be the end of the world as you know it, but life will go on. People will survive, and they will basically replant new crops, grow new foods, and harvest that new food, because they won't be able to eat any of the food that's on the vine or in the fields because that will be contaminated.
So typically, if you can put an average on it, how long can somebody last in one of your bunkers?
As long as they got food, water, and power. Most of them, the smaller bunkers, probably 30 to 60 days. The larger bunkers, probably 6 months. Some of the extra large bunkers up to a year.
Now you have.
But at some point, they're going to have to. At some point, now let me clarify that. If you have the right bunker and you're tied into a water well, you're going to have unlimited water, okay? And if you're basically recharging batteries and you're on solar panels and the skies aren't covered with cloud cover from all the fires, see, what's gonna cause a nuclear winter isn't the nuclear fallout. The bombs will cause fires. The fires will burn, and they will burn until the season comes with the rain. So the fires, the smoke from the fires is what's going to cover North America and will blacken out the skies. Now, this just happened last year up in Canada. They had fires, and all of New York City was blacking out from the smoke from the fires. So you multiply that times 100 times, that's what would happen, okay? The nuclear fallout isn't going to do as much damage as the smoke is from all the fires that are burning.
Right, okay. Now listen, one of your biggest videos on your YouTube channel is about Bill Gates. It's not your biggest by far. I mean, you've got bigger, but it's 1.9 million views, and it was quite a controversial video. You were basically saying, well, let's have a listen to it.
Billionaires are preparing for the apocalypse. Do they know something you don't know? Another one, Bill Gates fears plague that could wipe out humanity.
Here's another one. Bill Gates thinks a coming disease could wipe out or could kill 30 million people within 6 months and says we should prepare for it as we do war.
So there we hear Bill Gates sort of prophesying, if you like, well before the pandemic, that he thought the chances of a pandemic were far greater than of a nuclear war. And then, shortly afterwards, we had a pandemic, didn't we? The coronavirus pandemic. Why did you make that video?
Well, Bill Gates built a bunch of bunkers back in 2017, 18, and 19. So I did the video called, Why is Bill Gates Building So Many Bomb Shelters? And no one really knew when I made the video because the video was made and released 6 months before the COVID hit. Okay, so there's a lot of conspiracy theories because his exact words were, I put the likelihood of a pandemic greater than Ebola in my lifetime at greater than 50%. But he said, I put the likelihood of nuclear fallout as rather slim. Okay, and then the COVID happened. So there's a lot of conspiracy theories that he knew that it was coming or something like that. I think it was just freakish timing because unless Bill Gates is just the most evil person on earth, but there are people on this planet that would like to save the planet, okay, that are very powerful. And of course, that New World Order would like to see the population down to 500 million. So I said this to people yesterday, I probably said it to you as well, that, in 1940, the global population was 2 billion people, and today it's coming up on 8 billion. So in 80, 85 years, we've quadrupled the population on Earth. So if we quadrupled the current population and we go out to the year 2100 now, you're talking about 30 billion plus people. The planet can't sustain life for that. So nature usually has a way of thinning the herd. It does it on deer, it does it on fish, it does it on wildlife, ducks, geese, all kinds of birds. It gives it a pandemic, brings the numbers down, then they come back. So if nature doesn't do it, there are people out there that believes that mankind needs to step in and do it. And these kind of people scare people because there's a lot of people that have the same conspiracy theory that there are people that want to depopulate the earth to save the planet. And if this would happen and there was an airborne pandemic that could wipe out the population but not destroy the planet, they want a place to go. In my bunkers, the way I make them with gas-tight doors, with the proper HEPA filter systems and everything I have, as long as you're in my bunker, you would be safe from this type of pandemic that could be airborne.
But this is what I see in a lot of the comments on YouTube, on your channel, and on other channels as well, is that the very people who are buying bunkers in order to protect themselves are also the ones who are likely to cause the event, whatever it is, whereby people would need to protect themselves from bunkers. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Of course.
Of course? What? You say of course. And it's kind of beguiling to say, New World Order, they want a population of 500 million globally, and they won't stop at anything to make it happen. But where's the evidence for this?
Well, I don't know what goes on behind closed doors at these Bilderberg meetings and somewhat, but I imagine this depopulation of the world is probably things that are spoken behind closed doors with just a very few people, and God only knows. At this point, it's really a conspiracy, but all the arrows point towards people thinking that way. Otherwise, there wouldn't be such things as the New World Order. Matter of fact, go to the Denver airport. I don't know. I did a video about the Denver airport. When you go there, they did a cornerstone there, and it says a New World Airport. Okay, and it has the Mason symbol on it. Okay, and of course their philosophy is to control the world at a population of 500 million people. And that bunker at the Denver airport, which is underneath the airport, I have associates that worked on the bunker. They won't admit to it, but it's there. But this is basically Noah's Ark for the planet. Right. So if something happens, the Denver airport is where humanity will start over again. Now, there's things that can happen, and they will happen. They just probably won't happen in our lifetime, but the Earth will be hit by another asteroid, okay? Yeah. And it will kill a lot of people. That's just a fact of life. It's happened several times. So, but now they have a contention plan for that, and it's the Denver airport. So they can go down in there, and it will hold, I believe, 50,000 people. It's been a while since I talked about it, but I think it's 50,000 people. And 50,000 people, you can grow the planet back again. Keep in mind, if the stories are true, we all came from Noah's and his 3 sons and daughters-in-law. So if 3 people can populate a planet, I imagine 50,000 people can quickly repopulate a planet as well.
Well, look, I have to be fair. I have heard prominent people, anthropologists, scientists, and so on, saying that the world can't take the rate of increase of population, and that it actually ought to come down. One of the few voices against that is Elon Musk. He actually says the world can sustain a greater population and ought to, but at the same time, of course, he's worried about the end of the Earth, and he's getting ready to go to Mars, or he'd like to see that. So I suppose it's not a conspiracy theory as far as that goes, but the idea that they then actually kind of set into motion events that bring about the apocalypse, that's harder to believe. But anyway, look, let's talk about this film by Barack Obama. Have you seen it? Say Goodbye to the World, or Leave the World Behind, or whatever?
I actually have not seen it, but I heard about it. But
well,
you know, he partly produced it.
Yeah.
But the video coming out this Friday, called Civil War, that was produced by Barack Obama. So I'm sure there's a political message in there. I'll watch it this Friday, and we'll find out what it is exactly. But I'm sure.
In Leave the World Behind, I think the idea is that there's a massive cyber attack, and it's the end of the world, and there's complete chaos. I'm just wondering why they're coming up with so many. There's also silos. Why the end of the world is being fictionalized and put out there so much lately. It's almost a brilliant kind of marketing campaign for you. But do your sales go up when these sort of movies come out?
There hasn't been many of these movies to come out for me to even have to see a number like that. I mean, we'll find out this weekend. But my sales do spike when the Ukraine war started. There was a spike for 2-3 weeks, and it stayed steady since then. There's been a spike since the Israeli-Hamas conflict, and of course, it really started when the COVID started in 2020. That is when the big spike started, and it's maintained. But my business has really been built around when people build their new house, that we put in the bunker underneath the house, kind of like a basement or a wine cellar or a vault. And then we do a secret passage behind a Murphy door or some sort of secret bookshelf that opens up. You open it up, you go down there, and you got a safe room in case somebody breaks in the house or they shoot up the house. There's a conflict, there's tornadoes, there's some kind of war. And in the meantime, you can use this shelter as a root cellar for food storage. You can use it for a wine cellar. Americans, because we have so many guns here. I would say a lot of my customers have 100 to 400 guns, and they'll use them as a gun vault.
Wow.
So there's many reasons for me to do what I do. They don't all have to be bomb shelters.
Yeah,
they're all basically made on the same chassis.
I've seen a cross section from your website where you actually slide the kitchen granite top away, and then you can get down into your, what's it called, a bunker cellar or something like that?
Safe cellar.
Safe cellar.
Yeah, I wanted to take away the term bomb shelter because it just sounds so politically incorrect. So I call them safe cellars because it's like a root cellar or a wine cellar, but it's a safe room. So safe cellar is a new term that I've coined, and it seems to be working because I sell these, almost every day to people who see my vision, and I'm fulfilling their passion and their fantasies. And plus, just having a bomb shelter is just cool as hell.
It certainly is. Now, Ron, final question for you. If people are watching this at home and they say, I fancy one of these, how much would, a modest safe cellar or bomb shelter, whatever you want to call it, how much would a modest one cost, and how quickly could it get made?
The least expensive shelter I have is a precast concrete one. It's relatively very simple. It's just a glorified tornado shelter, but it has an air system in it to keep you alive. Those start at $20,000 US, but the average shelter that I do under a house is about $150,000. And then these larger shelters that I'm doing for the multimillionaires, they're usually 300 to 500,000 because they've got the money to do them. So they'll get them with 2 bedrooms, a living room, a kitchen, a bathroom, a decon room, a mud room, and a generator room. So they have 8 or 9 little rooms in them. And then when you get into a bunker like, what Zuckerberg or Tate brothers have, they're in the $1 to $2 million range on average. And then every now and then you'll get the fluke customer that is willing to spend 5 to 10 million. And then you will get a billionaire every now and then that will spend between 30 and 40 million, and they'll build a bunker that's 25,000 square feet or 2,500 square meters.
Have you ever built one like that?
I personally haven't. I've sold them that big, but they were used. I acquire old military bunkers and I resell them. So I personally have not built one that big myself yet.
Just a really final question for you, Ron, because people will be saying, come on, this guy says he's doing this out of the goodness of his heart and he's not getting rich off it. A few articles have said, you must be, surely. So I don't know, I'll leave it to you. Are you rich?
Am I personally rich? I would say no. But is the company selling a lot? Yeah, we are, but we haven't. I consider this company being in R&D for the last 6 years. We've been developing products, so we haven't focused on the bottom line. We've just focused on safety, and knock on wood, we've never had a lawsuit against our company. We've never had an injury. But we are going to become profitable in 2024 and then forward, because now we are selling parts. We found our niche. It's like, like a race car team. They race for show, but they sell parts, or they sell cars for dough. Right. Well, I always say I make bunkers for show to show people how I'm doing it, but I sell parts for dough. So the money I will make in the future for the company globally will be selling air systems and doors to contractors and do-it-yourselfers who want to build a shelter for themselves, because I can literally supply you an air system for as little as under $3,000, where you can turn a room into a fallout shelter.
Oh, cool.
So there is a budget, a bunker within everybody's budget that's hearing my voice right now. So if you're like, well, you know what, I can't afford that big one, but I do want to have a spot in my house that I could make airtight by putting plastic around the walls and duct taping it and putting one of these small air systems on the wall, you can do that for $3,000 now, because I keep coming out with new products. I'm not saying I'm Elon Musk, but I'm kind of like the Elon Musk to the bunker industry.
Right. Well, there's something for everybody's budget then. Ron, if we come out to the States to cover the election, will you be kind enough to show us around your factory, your plant in Texas?
Absolutely. It is a large facility. It covers 10 acres, and there's usually about 50 big bomb shelters here at any time. So we are absolutely open to the public. We give tours daily to schools. School buses pull in here. People like to walk through the bomb shelters and see them, and they're all rather pleasantly surprised at how nice they are, and how you don't feel like you're really in a bomb shelter so much. And that's what I wanted to do, was to normalize the feeling that you have in a bomb shelter, so you don't panic, so you could use the shelter for recreation as well as an emergency. And I've achieved that, and we're ready to go global with our product, and we're doing that right now in the Middle East, in Europe, and in North America.
Well, we can't wait to try them out. Ron Hubbard, thanks so much for being on our Nexus podcast, our first one.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
for having me.
Take care, though.